This boy was beaten at home and treated like a failure. His name was Arata Tuma. He couldn't get into the academy because his power was soot, something everyone thought was trash. So he was forced to clean the house just to avoid getting beaten. But after 6 years, he and his brother were deceived by hunters. They injected beast blood into his brother. That day, he lost everything until he realized his soot wasn't useless. He could use it like a magical shadow orb. Then he started destroying all the hunters who laughed at him. 6 years in the past, he fondly remembers his dear brother. Washing dishes in a messy kitchen, he just follows the orders he's given every day. He accidentally drops a plate, and it shatters into pieces. Worried, Arata Tuma holds the broken shards, imagining his mother's furious reaction. Then a voice yells at him, asking what the hell he's done this time. Furious, she calls him useless, threatening to send him back to the orphanage. Head down, he apologizes for the mistake, feeling awful about the whole situation. She tells him to cut it out and take the trash out immediately. Standing by the sink, he watches the couple interacting in the background. Back to work, he continues his chores, thinking about his older brother. Feeling out of place, he thinks he doesn't really deserve to live in that house. Just then, his older brother appears, calling out to him with a bag of groceries. Ryu Tuma, his brother, smiles and winks at him, trying to lighten the mood. Seeing the trash, he calls the boy over so they can take it out together. With a small smile, he agrees, happy about his brother's gesture. Hand in hand, they go out to throw away the trash. A moment of connection. Sitting on the floor, he watches a news report about the subjugation of a magical beast. On the report, a famous hero named Kisaragi had defeated a silver rank demon. Excited, he comments that slayers are incredible people who fight to protect the world. His mother appears behind him, asking in a serious tone what he's doing. With a slap, she yells that he's a useless brat and should be folding the laundry. Annoyed by his reaction, she asks what that look on his face means. Even with his eyes full of tears, he keeps staring at her in complete silence. Her face red with rage, she bares her teeth and gets even angrier. In a swift motion, she raises her hand, yelling at him never to look at her like that again. Frozen, he just watches her hand approach, about to strike him. Before the blow lands, his brother appears and grabs her wrist, stopping the attack in midair. With a bruised face, the older brother glares at her with a very serious expression. Then he calls for Arata to leave, and they walk out of the room together. Outside, both brothers appear with bruised faces after the fight. To him, his older brother was a true hero who always protected him. Feeling guilty, he thinks he can't depend on his brother so much anymore. Sitting on the stairs, he calls his brother to tell him something a bit embarrassing. With great determination, he reveals that his big dream is to become a slayer. Shouting, he promises he'll become a slayer, run away from that house, and take his brother with him. Vowing to get stronger, he says he'll definitely be able to protect his brother. At that, a slight smile appears on the older brother's face as he listens. Placing a hand on his shoulder, he says that Arata can definitely do it. He continues, saying that Arata has a kindness and a strength that never wavers. Then he stands up excitedly, shouting that their special training starts today. Thrilled with the idea, they yell together that they're finally going to make it happen. To become a slayer, he started training like crazy every day. Having his brother nearby, always cheering him on, made him believe it was possible. But he says he will never, ever forget that one specific day. Looking at the door, he sees something that leaves him completely shocked. Suddenly, a bright object is reflected directly in the boy's wide eye. Confused, he calls out to his older brother, who turns to see what it is. Floating between them, a golden orb appears in the middle of the room, surprising them both. With a look of complete shock, the older brother can't believe what he's seeing. Hugging Arata tightly, he says the gods have seen all his hard work. Still in the embrace, Arata says, "Thank you," while his brother says that dreams can come true. Happy for him, his brother says he feels proud, as if he were the one who had won. Looking closer, he realizes it's a water attribute orb. Kneeling on the floor, Arata reaches out to grab the item he's always wanted. But out of nowhere, another hand appears, moving quickly toward the golden orb. Taking the object for himself, the man snatches it from the boy's hands abruptly. With a smirk, he says something like, "That is too good for someone like Arata." Seeing this, the older brother shouts that the orb actually belongs to Arata. With a threatening glare, the man gets annoyed by the boy's interruption. With a violent blow, he throws him aside, yelling that what was his is now mine. The older brother slams hard against the wooden wall from the impact. Desperate, Arata screams his brother's name, seeing what had just happened. Holding the orb, the man says it will sell for a lot, and he can finally buy something. With tears in his eyes, he reflects that bad people always take what is precious. The scene changes to a huge Goto Corporation building standing out in the night. Sitting in an armchair, a man offers 30 million, thinking it's more than enough. With a smile, the man accepts the money and happily hands over the golden orb. Receiving the object, the buyer holds it carefully, observing all its details. A malicious smile spreads across his face as he holds the newly acquired item. Back in the present, Takatora from the Goto Corporation is surrounded by photographers. As a new star, they say he's the one who will save the world. Seeing the news, Arata comments that this guy has been doing some really incredible things lately. His friend agrees, saying that being rich and also a slayer is insane. Curious, he asks what kind of orb Arata had seen years ago. He describes a golden orb with a blue ring, feeling the same emotion from that day. Yelling about the orb, his brother shows his complete outrage at the situation. It's explained that in Japan, there is only one golden orb for each element. He then accuses his own father of selling the orb and lying about everything. Back at home, sitting on the couch, they continue their conversation while watching television. He laments that if he had the orb, he could have become a slayer by now. Hearing that, his brother stares at him intently, seeming to get an idea. Then he makes up his mind, saying he's going to get the item back right now. Standing up immediately, he turns to leave, but the other asks him to wait. The scene changes, taking us to a large building in the city center. Inside an office, a woman announces that Master Takatora has visitors. Asking who it is, he replies that he's very busy right now. Even so, the man named Goto Takatora allows them to enter the room. Arriving at the location, the two brothers enter and greet the man waiting for them. Goto Takatora remains silent, just observing the two who have just arrived. At that moment, the younger brother seems a little intimidated by his gaze. Explaining to the receptionist, he mentions they use the name Tsubasa Tuma to get in. Once in the room, he formally introduces himself as Ryo, Tsubasa Tuma's son. Getting straight to the point, he says he's there to get back the orb his father traded. With a smile, Goto Takatora asks what exactly he's talking about regarding this trade. Angry, he slams the table and tells Goto not to play dumb. Goto then just clasps his hands, saying that now he understands the situation. Next, he asks if they are there looking for money. Ryo immediately denies it, saying the orb belonged to his brother and he wants it back. After hearing everything, Goto thinks for a moment, but then quickly agrees. With a smile, he says he has something very interesting he wants to show them. Standing up, he guides them through the room, saying they can deal with the orb later. He then leads them towards a door that opens into a dark room. Startled, Ryo tells him to wait, but it's already too late to back out. Looking inside, the two brothers are completely paralyzed by the scene. At that instant, a huge crack opens in the floor right in front of them. Screaming in terror, he asks what a magical fissure is doing right there. With a quick goodbye, Goto simply shoves both of them into the dark room. He quickly types a code on the panel, locking the door on the two brothers. As he leaves, he says he has no time to waste on them and tells them to have fun. Desperate, the younger one pounds on the door, yelling for the coward to open it immediately. At that moment, a dark sphere begins to emerge from the crack in the floor. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Ryo says things have gotten very bad for them now. He then warns that the dark soul will possess them and turn them into magical beasts. Suddenly, the sphere lunges toward the two cornered brothers. In a reflex, Arata turns and sees the attack coming at him quickly. Yelling for him to be careful, Ryo shoves him with all his strength to save him. The impact sends Arata flying, and he ends up on the floor. Lying on the ground, he looks back, calling out his brother's name. Right at that moment, Arata's eye begins to undergo a transformation. Before him, his brother is now completely engulfed by that dense, dark energy. Even while being possessed, he asks with a smile if his brother is okay. Seeing this, Arata falls into complete despair, unable to believe the scene. In a quick flashback, he remembers his brother's promise to always protect him. Reaching out his hand, Ryo calls his name one last time before he changes. With a transformed look, he says that Arata can do it. Unable to hold back his tears, Arata continues to cry desperately on the floor. Screaming no, he begs his brother to resist the transformation. Before his eyes, his brother transforms into a gigantic and terrifying magical beast. Paralyzed, he can only wonder why this is happening. Lying on the floor, he begins to question everything, wondering where he went wrong. With a new look in his eyes, he declares that the ones to blame are the people who took everything from him. At that moment, the dark energy sphere turns and moves toward him. Recognizing the sphere, he realizes he has finally found the legendary orb. Reflected in his eyes, the orb once seemed completely out of his reach. Reaching out, he declares the orb will be his, and he will become a slayer. As he manages to grasp the object, he begins to absorb all the sphere's power. His eyes then start to change, a sign that the transformation is beginning. In immense pain, he starts screaming as the power consumes him from within. In that instant, his eyes turn completely red, showing the process is advancing. Letting out a final scream, he is completely overtaken by that dark energy. Soon after, a notification informs him that he has received the protection of the demonic realm. Then, Another system message displays the new skills he has acquired. Changing scenes, we see Goto Takatora calmly walking down his office hallway. Smiling, he says the two of them will become food for him to level up. To him, this is what happens when useless peasants dare to challenge him. Walking confidently, he believes the problem was solved very easily. Back in the dark room, Arata continues to scream in pain during his transformation. His eyes widen as he finally understands everything that has happened to his body. Managing to steady himself, he lands on his feet, feeling the new changes. Looking at his own hand, he wonders if he really obtained the orb's power. A scream echoes through the room as the creature charges straight at him. With a swift move, he dodges the blow that carves a crater in the floor. He realizes he dodged on instinct and that his body feels much lighter. Testing his new body, he moves around the room with surprising agility. Suddenly, a strange interface appears before him, displaying various pieces of information. Analyzing the screen, he sees his level, a health bar, and even his skills. Surprised, he notices that the world now looks different from how he's always seen it. The creature then roars once more, preparing to attack again. Telling him to calm down, he urges his brother not to be consumed by that energy. Clenching his fist, he swears that this time, he'll be the one to save him. The large creature stops and stares at him, as if it understood what he said. Baring its teeth, the creature lets out a menacing roar in his direction. Below him, the creature was trapped in a huge crater in the ground. With great effort, he focused as hard as he could to maintain control. At this, the creature becomes enraged and lands a devastating blow on the ground. Then suddenly, the monster flees, smashing through the wall of the building. He wonders why the monster stopped its attack and fled for no reason. Realizing the danger, he says he needs to find it before it attacks someone else. Just then, a strange energy appears, and he yells for it to wait. By the time he notices, the small rat was already being completely consumed by it. Completely terrified, he watches the transformation happen right before his eyes. Immediately after, a gigantic beast appears and stares him down, ready to attack. Charging forward at high speed, the creature prepares to strike with its claws. He tries to dodge, but the beast was much faster than him. With a powerful blow, the beast shatters the floor, but he manages to escape. Sliding across the floor, he says he doesn't have time to waste on this, but he's quickly surprised by a blow that lands right next to his face. From the impact of the blow, he is thrown violently into the distance. Lying on the ground, he says the hit was strong, and that he needs to go after his brother. Then he remembers something important that could change the course of the fight. Suddenly, a notification appears, informing him that he has acquired new battle skills. Declaring that he is now a hunter too, he prepares for a counterattack. He then concentrates to use one of his newly acquired skills. Using his new skill, he charges toward the beast with incredible speed. After using his power, he looks at the destruction he caused in the area. Seeing a black powder, he says that this is the power of the explosion. But to his surprise, the creature was still standing and staring at him. Without wasting a moment, the beast charges at him again with full force. In desperation, he screams that the creature is coming at him again. Taking a direct hit, he is brutally thrown to the ground. Despite being badly injured, he tries to find the strength to get up and keep fighting. He wonders if he's going to die without doing anything, now that he's become a hunter. About to receive the final blow, he laments not being able to save his brother. Even on the ground, he says he needs to hurry to save him in time. As the beast prepares to attack, it senses that something is different. At that moment, a dark energy begins to emerge from around his entire body. Noticing the change, the creature's eye glows brightly, seemingly surprised. Suddenly, multiple shadow strikes emerge and hit the beast head-on. Thrown into the distance, the creature screams as it takes the full damage of the attack. After everything, he seems to have finally passed out on the floor. Opening his eyes slowly, he wonders what just happened. He then asks himself if he was the one who defeated the creature with all those weapons. Looking at his hands, he tries to understand what happened while he was unconscious. Just then, a notification appears, informing him that he has leveled up from 1 to 3. He wonders if he leveled up because he defeated the beast by himself. Saying no, he quickly gets up, ignoring all his pain. He then states that it doesn't matter and looks through the hole in the wall. Saying he needs to hurry, he runs to find his brother. Then he remembers the man who threatened him earlier that day. With great conviction, he declares he will never forgive that man. Suddenly, out of nowhere, he simply collapses in the middle of the sidewalk. Changing scenes, the sun sets behind a large city building. Inside, someone asks if they should subjugate the one who turned into a magical beast. Then the blonde man seems to dislike what he just heard. Entering the place, he wonders what the hell is going on in there. Seeing the hole in the wall, he questions why it was destroyed. He says the guys from there were too weak to break the wall. "It can't be," he says furiously, calling those responsible bastards. In a memory, His brother called his name with a smile. Hugging him tightly, his brother seemed so happy in that moment. But now, transformed, he says that if it's Arata, anything is possible. Desperate, Arata screams for his brother, reaching a hand out to him. Waking up confused in a bed, he wonders where he is. Then, a vision of a monstrous creature flashes in his mind. Getting out of bed, he says he needs to find his brother downtown. Surprised by the situation, he wonders what they're doing to him. Appearing before him, the nurse tells him to stay in bed. She explains they received a call about him fainting in the street. Looking at his bandaged hand, he starts to process the situation. After remembering he fell to the ground, he understands what happened. Still a bit lost, he asks the nurse what this place is. She replies that it's a help station for newbies. Wondering who brought him there, he grabs an important paper. She comments that he's a newbie and should join a guild. Saying, "Excuse me," he tells her he needs to go somewhere specific. Very irritated, she yells that he can't and needs to rest. Asking him to wait, she turns and leaves for a moment. With a serious look, he stares at the room's door. Placing his feet on the floor, he gets ready to leave the bed. Walking to the door, he hears a news report about the monster on the loose. Shocked, he's stunned to see the news has already spread. Two men in the hallway are talking about an unidentified hunter. Hearing their conversation, he realizes the guild is going after his brother. Returning to the room, the nurse talks about the reward money. Surprised, she shouts for him when she sees he's no longer there. Looking at the empty bed, she's completely confused. Running through the streets, he tries to reach his destination as fast as possible. He remembers talking with his brother about an unknown hunter. Considering the possibility, he realizes his brother might be in a magical fissure. In that case, he says he has no choice but to search them one by one. Suddenly, he hears an announcement about a new fissure that has appeared. Standing in the street, he hears that all residents must evacuate immediately. Questioning the coincidence, he tells himself he should go check it out. In the middle of the city, a bronze difficulty magical fissure manifests. Getting closer, he notices a barrier has already been set up around the area. Believing his brother is in there, he wonders if he can handle it. Then, saying he has to go, he runs full speed towards the portal. Just then, a system message announces that the fissure capture has begun. As he's pulled inside, he feels the transition to the new environment. On the other side, he squints to adjust to the view. Planting his feet on the ground, he manages to land safely. With his eyes open, he observes the completely new scenery before him. Looking around, he notices the place is very different from the outside. Searching for his brother, he says he'll only know for sure if he goes deeper. Suddenly, a screen appears in front of him, taking him by surprise. On it, a mission appears, telling him to defeat the boss and close the fissure. Thinking about the boss, he wonders if he can beat the other monsters along the way. Changing his stance, he prepares for what's to come. At that moment, the paws of a monstrous creature touch the ground. Appearing before him, a level 3 wolf monster stares him down. Seeing the enemy, he says that this time he'll have to fight for real. Facing the wolf, he decides to defeat the weaker monsters to move forward. Pointing his hand, he decides to use his new combat skill. With his finger extended, he concentrates to activate his power. Then he summons his blade, calling out the name of his technique. Seeing the weapon form, he celebrates that the skill worked. Furious, the creature lets out a roar in his direction. Charging forward, he lands a direct hit on the monster's mouth. Feeling the force of the blow, he's violently pushed back. Thrown far back, he says he trained with his brother to endure this. Trying to stop the recoil, he plants his foot firmly on the ground. With a furious cry, he charges toward the monster without hesitation. Getting close, he unleashes a series of blows on the creature's paws. After defeating the wolf, he turns and says it all worked out. Just then, a system notification informs him that he has leveled up. Letting out a sigh of relief, he seems satisfied with the fight's outcome. Suddenly, his eyes widen as he senses a new threat approaching. Looking ahead, he sees an entire pack of wolves coming at him. Desperate, he questions if he can defeat them all at his current level. Holding his weapon, he realizes fighting like that won't work. Then he remembers he could use the skill he used the day before. Without giving him time to think, the wolves all charge at once. Reaching out his hand, he yells that it's useless since he doesn't know how to use the power. Surrounded by the monsters, he realizes his energy will run out very quickly. Then, a powerful blow strikes all the wolves at once. In the midst of the attack, a mysterious figure appears and eliminates all the enemies. The person comments on the skill that was just used in the battle. Looking up, he asks the newcomer what that was. Impressed with the technique, he wonders if that person was the one who used it. Mentioning the association, they ask if Arata is the unknown hunter. Facing the trio, he looks surprised by their presence. Identified as Leo Kuji, he asks about the young man's attribute. Next, Shu Makishima is introduced, adjusting his glasses with a serious expression. Soon after, Hayato Akagi, Another member of the group is shown. Questioning their presence, he asks what they're doing in a place like this. Leo then asks if this Lord Sion is one of the 5 emperors. Suddenly, monstrous paws emerge, kicking up dust everywhere. Surrounding the trio, enormous beasts appear, ready to attack. Seeing the situation, the creatures charge towards the group. Ignoring the beasts, Leo says he was talking to the other guy. Preparing an attack, he moves his fingers to use a skill. He then invokes his most powerful technique, called Ragnarok Divine Fall. With his arms crossed, he prepares to unleash his power. Unleashing a devastating blow, he hits all the enemies at once. After the attack, the group simply turns their backs and leaves. Watching the group, he remains confused about what just happened. Leo then turns, stating that is the power of a gold slayer. Calling it an abnormal situation, he notes the number of enemies in a bronze rift. He then approaches the young man and asks what that skill of his was. Not knowing what to say, he just confirms that he used a skill. That skill didn't seem to belong to any of the 5 known attributes. Leo says he's never seen that technique and notes that he's a freelancer. In an aggressive tone, he asks what the young man came here to do. Cornered by the question, he just faces the situation in silence. Trying to get away, he thanks them for their help and says he's leaving. But Leo explains that the orbs appear from the resonance of a strong desire. He continues, saying that most of them match the 5 attributes. Analyzing the young man, he realizes his power is different from the others. Confirming his suspicions, he says the young man is the unidentified slayer. With a threatening look, he calls him an irregular, showing his intentions. Still not understanding, he faces his opponent with a tense expression. Asking what he means, he questions the term irregular. Trying to avoid a confrontation, he says he needs to move on quickly. But Leo warns that although he doesn't follow orders, there is a capture directive. Telling him not to take it personally, he lunges at the young man. Seeing the imminent attack, his eyes widen in surprise. With his fist in flames, he throws a direct punch at his opponent. As he's hit, the young man screams, asking what's suddenly happening. His ability manifests to defend him from the blow. Surprised by the defense, Leo questions if that was some kind of soot protection. Pushed back, he slides across the ground from the impact of the blow. Smirking, Leo says that wasn't half bad and tells the others to take care of it. His companions comment that things will get bad if Leo fights seriously. With a malicious smile, he prepares to attack with full force. Launching a new strike, he throws the young man off a cliff without hesitation. Hiding behind a rock, he tries to protect himself from the fire attacks. Shouting, Leo tells him to surrender, or he'll really turn to ash. Crouched down, he knows that if he gets caught, he won't be able to look for his brother anymore. Saying that hiding is useless, he launches another attack in the young man's direction. Charging forward, the fire attack sweeps across the battlefield. Hit head-on, he falls to the ground from the force of the blow. Leo warns him that he can't do anything by just running and hiding. Realizing it won't work, he decides he needs to use one of his skills. With a determined look, he seems to have found a solution to the problem. Intrigued, Leo observes the change in his opponent's posture from a distance. Finally standing up, he decides to face his adversary head-on. With his hands forward, he prepares for what's to come. Smirking, Leo asks if he's finally decided to fight. Finding it all useless, he rushes forward with an even more powerful blow than before. Reacting to the attack, he manages to manipulate the enemy's fire strikes. Using his ability, he releases a blast of soot to contain the blow. His soot then finally manages to extinguish all the flames of the powerful attack. Watching everything, Leo just gives a confident smile at the situation. He then shouts in anger, saying that his ash no longer burns. Leo then says he doesn't seem to be an ordinary ash guy, but saying that this is the end, he prepares a new attack. With a powerful blow, he yells for the young man to surrender. Holding his sword, he shouts that his brother is waiting for him. He then declares that he can't be caught in a place like this. Confused by the situation, Leo questions the mention of a brother. Gaining momentum, he runs at high speed towards his opponent. With a war cry, he charges forward to deliver a blow. He lands a direct hit, but Leo manages to defend himself. While defending, Leo asks what happened to his brother. Surprised by the question, the young man freezes for a moment. Regaining his balance, he steps back a little, maintaining his combat stance. He then remains silent for a moment, just staring at his adversary. Saying he needs to go, he turns to leave the battle site. Leo then tells him he needs to defeat the Rift's boss and level up. With a smile, he warns that at this rate, he'll just turn to ash. Shaking his head, he seems to agree with what was said. Thanking him for his help, he starts running away quickly. Smiling, Leo shouts for him to train hard and with passion. Approaching, his companions report that they've eliminated all the demon bodies. Asking about the young man, one of them notices he's no longer around. Remembering the kid, Leo just says he was a passionate guy. Noticing his good mood, his partners get ready for the next order. The scene changes, and a demonic rift alert sounds in the Deep Blue Guild. A woman announces that a rift has appeared in the Shigeno district. Marked on the map, the exact location of the rift is shown. Turning around, she asks if Ichika can go to the location of the call. Promptly, the Silver Slayer Ichika Aoi accepts the mission with a yes. As dusk settled, the city's tall buildings began to light up. Down below, the bustling streets glowed with the light of countless ads and signs. Meanwhile, on the sidewalk, people hurried back and forth. Standing there, he remarks that news about the magic fissure is finally out. He recalls with regret that he couldn't find his brother because someone else beat the boss first. Just then, a JSA announcement promises that the association will protect everyone they can. Seeing the ad, he declares he'll have to handle this on his own. Suddenly, a magic fissure alert rings out, and he mutters that it's here. Amidst the crowd, everyone learns the fissure has opened in Shigeno District 4. Then, a phone alert warns everyone to evacuate the area until the Slayers arrive. Surrounded by the crowd, he notes that Shigeno District 4 is very close by. He tells himself he needs to get there before the other Slayers seal off the area. Without a second thought, he pushes forward, running against the flow of the fleeing crowd. Just ahead, a bronze-rank magic fissure tears open in the middle of the street. Arriving on the scene, he says he hopes to find his brother inside the fissure. Suddenly, someone shouts that the magic fissure is a restricted area. Then, two bronze-rank slayers from the Navy Guild appear and ask if he's a slayer. Noticing something, one of them tells him to wait a minute, having spotted something. Pointing at him, the man says he doesn't have a guild insignia. With disdain, he calls him a pathetic slayer who can't even fight. Annoyed, he wonders who these guys are that just showed up out of nowhere. They explain that their master is going to clear the area, so no one else is allowed inside. Losing his patience, he says it doesn't matter. He has to get inside as fast as possible. Ignoring him, they warn that they can't let him through, as they need to secure the reward for themselves. With a smirk, one of them tells him to back off as he prepares a skill. He then unleashes an ice attack that shoots rapidly toward the young man. Reacting just in time, he manages to dodge, landing a precise blow on the opponent's attack. Now facing them both, he shouts that he's in too much of a hurry for this. Gritting his teeth, he says, "If that's how you want it!" Charging forward, he yells that he'll take them down as fast as he can. Smiling, the attacker says he's caught him right in his trap. Immediately, the ground beneath his feet transforms, completely immobilizing him. Unable to move, he grunts that the ground suddenly trapped him. Crouching in front of him, the man warns that his swamp is bottomless. They then warn him to be careful, calling him a wild rookie slayer. Just then, a girl appears, shouting and asking what they think they're doing. Recognizing the newcomer, he's surprised to see the silver rank slayer, Aoi Ichika. Saying she'll save him, she prepares to use one of her skills. With a single gesture, she unleashes a power that dispels the trap on the ground. Completely free, he pulls himself out of the muddy puddle that had trapped him. She then helps him up, asking why slayers are fighting each other. Explaining the situation, he tells her those guys won't let him into the fissure. Overhearing them, the two worry she's a support member for the guildmaster. Determined to stop her, they attack together, launching a barrage of strikes at her. Caught by surprise, she cries out that the attacks came out of nowhere. Creating a barrier, she defends herself from the multiple blows coming her way. Knocked to the ground, she says she hates having to fight other people. Pointing at him, she asks him to fight alongside her, with her support. Though surprised, he says he's never fought with anyone before, but he accepts her help. Then, she calls out the name of her skill and prepares to provide support. As the power flows into him, he wonders what that was, noting that he feels different. She explains that fighting will be much easier now with her support. Getting the message, he dashes towards the two opponents at high speed. Seeing him charge forward, one of them asks if the guy isn't moving faster than before. With a swift strike, he hits one of the slayers who is unable to defend. After the attack, both opponents are already down and defeated on the ground. Looking at his hands, he says his body feels light and asks what just happened. Checking his stats, he realizes his mana level has increased by an absurd amount. Approaching him, she asks if he cut them, but he says he used the back of his blade. Hearing his answer, she starts to say something about those two. Seeing their guild insignia, she says, "They're from my guild. What an embarrassment." Realizing the connection, he understands she's a water-type slayer from the Takatora Guild. Thanking her for her help, he introduces himself as Arata when she asks his name. With a smile, Ichika introduces herself and compliments him, saying he's quite strong. As he's about to ask about her guild, he seems to sense something strange in the air. With a look of rage, he shows he's furious with the whole situation. As they flee, The defeated slayers shout that they need to find Master Takatora immediately. Hearing the name, he says he needs to warn Rei about what Takatora has been up to. Remembering the man's face, he grows furious just thinking about him again. Changing the subject, he refocuses on the situation right in front of him. Near the fissure, she warns that they need to clear the area before anyone else shows up. A bit confused, he doesn't quite understand what she means. Pointing at him, she explains that she's heard about strange things happening in low-rank areas. Remembering the buff, she asks if her support didn't make the fight a lot easier for him. With a smile, he thanks her again, confirming that her help was incredible. Smiling, she asks if he wants to team up with her to clear the magic fissure. Even though he thinks it's dangerous, he accepts her offer. She celebrates, telling him to come on. With a confident look, she tells him to make sure he can keep up. Full of energy, he replies that he'll do his best. Side by side, the two finally prepare to enter the Great Magic Fissure. Then, a blue screen appears, announcing that the raid on the fissure is about to begin. Entering the fissure, they step into a completely new and unknown land. Surprised, he looks around, wondering what kind of place this is. In the background, a giant spider is seen in its web, waiting for prey. Inside a cave, water dripped slowly into a dark, deep lake. Moving through the stone corridor, the two walk toward a distant light. She then explains that the fissure is another dimension, so they need to be careful. Walking through the area, he realizes his brother isn't there, and there are no magical beasts. He then thinks it would be too hard to find his brother that easily. With Ichika's buff, he decides he's going to learn to fight and focus on leveling up. From behind a rock, a large, clawed foot stomps heavily on the ground. In that instant, they both look up, surprised by the presence that has appeared. Before them, a level 5 goblin appears, holding a large wooden club. Remembering the last fight, he says that goblins are the weakest rank of monsters. With his weapon in hand, he charges forward and lands a fatal blow on the monster. After the attack, he says he can handle this level of challenge easily. Suddenly, more goblin feet start to appear from all sides of the cave. Right after, a gigantic horde of monsters appears right in front of him. Facing the crowd, he wonders if he can handle so many enemies. At that moment, Ichika uses one of her skills, strengthening him for the big battle. With the support, his stats are updated, showing a huge increase in his attack power. With a smile, she yells for him to go all out against the opponents. Charging with all his might, he levels up and defeats several monsters at once. Seeing the result, she says that with her help, he can easily handle the bronze rank. Thanking her, he praises her buff skills, which are truly incredible. Proudly, she boasts that she is the main support pillar of her guild. Suddenly, he notices a strange movement approaching from behind his partner. He then shouts, warning that a monster is preparing to attack right behind her. Without turning around, she creates a water shield to defend against the surprise attack. From inside the barrier, she already prepares to use another of her skills. Unleashing a powerful water strike, she hits the attacking goblin head-on. Impressed by her agility, he realizes her experience is on another level. Seeing that he has stopped, she asks what's wrong and urges him to keep going. He then replies that he wants to level up to protect people like her. With a smile, she says she understood perfectly what he meant by that. Right after, she warns him that first, he'll have to fight against many monsters. Surprised by the number, he wonders if this is an irregular situation in the dungeon. Receiving her support once more, he feels stronger to fight. Being encouraged, he thinks that if she's supporting him, he has to do it. With a determined look, he prepares to face the enormous horde of goblins. Shouting, he charges into the crowd, leveling up with every successful hit. After the battle, he says that if he defeats this many enemies, he'll get stronger. With a smile, she congratulates him on the great job he did all by himself. Suddenly, a notification appears, showing he jumped from level 6 to 10. The notification screen confirms that he really went up 4 levels at once. Right after, another notification announces that he has acquired a new combat skill. Surprised by what he sees, he's speechless for a moment. Making matters worse, another horde of goblins emerges with even more ferocious monsters. Seeing double the enemies, she warns that a simple attack won't be enough. Worried, he asks if she can attack the enemies from a distance. Then he remembers that he just got a new attack skill. Looking at his skill list, he decides he's going to use the new ability now. With focused eyes, he begins to prepare his newest and most powerful strike. Shouting the name of the attack, he unleashes a strike that rushes toward the horde. With no chance to defend, one of the goblins is hit head-on by the attack. With his hand outstretched, he watches the result of his new, devastating power. After the impact, a large cloud of dark smoke fills the entire area. Impressed, she praises his attack, saying it was great and solved the problem. Excited, she tells him they should head to the final boss just like that. As a result, a notification appears showing he went up 2 more levels. Confirming the notification, his level went from 10 straight to level 12. Looking into the cave, they spot a deeper, darker passage just ahead. Stopping at the entrance, she says the boss is probably inside that area. Running carefully, they advance to face the boss together for the first time. Then, they look ahead and are surprised by what they find in the room. In the back, a huge armored knight was sitting, waiting for a challenge. Clenching its fist tightly, the creature stands up to begin the final battle. Then the boss reveals itself, a level 15 ogre, ready for combat. Facing the boss, he says, "This is no time to be intimidated." The boss makes a sound, but he can't understand the strange language it speaks. Just then, the boss's weapon begins to gather a massive electrical power. Then the monster unleashes a strike at the two of them with all its might. Jumping in front of him, she yells for him to leave everything to her. She then creates a water shield to defend against the massive electric blow. With her hand outstretched, her barrier manages to hold back the boss's powerful attack. Straining hard, she struggles with all her might to keep her defense up. The defense shatters, and the impact of the blow sends them both flying. After the impact, she drops to one knee, looking exhausted. On the ground, she wonders if this is really a bronze rank boss with electricity. Without giving them a moment to recover, the monster fires another electric strike from its weapon. He tells her he'll defend, and asks her to use the opening to attack. Once again, she creates a water shield to block the boss's next attack. With difficulty, she says she's fine and tells him to go for it. Thinking he can't always be protected, he decides he can fight on his own. Shouting, "Here I go!" the young man charges the boss with everything he's got. Leaping over the weapon, he dodges the huge monster's electric attack. Seeing the perfect opening, he prepares to use his new skill. With a powerful blow, he strikes the weapon the ogre was holding head-on. After launching the attack, he observes the result of his newest technique. Seeing her chance, she cheers, saying they just need to get rid of that weapon. From the impact of the blow, the boss's large weapon flies far away, clattering to the ground. The monster's hand is badly injured, unable to hold its weapon any longer. Ignoring his partner, the boss charges straight for the young man. Desperate, he realizes he won't be able to escape the monster's attack in time. With nowhere to run, he's hit by a direct attack from the ogre. The impact throws him backward, leaving him severely wounded. Seeing this, she is in complete shock at what just happened. Lying on the ground, she calls out to him, running desperately to his side. Creating a water shield, she protects them both from danger. Telling him it's okay, she places her hand on his wound to heal him. She then uses one of her recovery skills to help her partner. With her magic, his wound begins to heal quickly. Slowly, the large gash begins to close, but he can still feel the pain. Still on the ground, he grits his teeth against the pain of the attack. Helping him up, she asks if he can keep fighting now. Up ahead, the boss stomps the ground hard and readies itself. Rushing toward them, the monster charges with surprising speed. Impressed, she notes its movements are fast and that it's coming right for them. Preparing a blow, the boss strikes the protective barrier with all its might. The impact slams into her water shield, which takes the full force of the boss's attack. Seeing its raw power, he says, "This is bad," and that the shield won't hold. She then tells him they need to stop its movements to take it down in one blow. Just then, he notices a small opening on the monster's neck, a weak spot. She asks if he can do it, and he confirms the plan with a shout. While she attacks with her strikes, he advances from the side to get closer to the boss. The monster then turns its head, glaring at the young man who was getting closer. Without wasting a moment, the ogre swings a powerful blow in his direction. Staring at the monster's fist, he braces for the impact of the imminent blow. Saying, "Right there!" he prepares one of his own strikes for a counterattack. He then unleashes his attack, which lands a direct hit on the boss's arm. Upon impact, a red light suddenly flashes on the huge monster's chest. The attack works, forcing the boss to stumble back for a moment and fall to one knee, shouting, "Now's our chance!" She tells him this is the moment to strike. Wielding his weapon, he declares he won't be protected all the time anymore. To help, she uses another of her skills to strengthen his attack. With her hands clasped together, she yells for him to use the power to defeat it. Receiving her support, he turns with a confident smile on his face. His eyes then turn red, showing he's ready for the final blow. Sprinting at full speed, he charges forward for the final strike against the boss. Leaping into the air, he yells as he prepares the strike with his dark weapon. With a look of pure fury, he focuses on landing the decisive attack. With a final, decisive blow, he strikes the monster's neck with his weapon. The boss's body then crashes to the ground, finally defeated after the long battle. Facing the vanquished foe, he catches his breath from the intense combat. Immediately after, a notification confirms the Rift's boss has been defeated. Another screen announces he has leveled up, going from 12 to 13. Running towards him, she calls out his name, looking very relieved. With a smile, she raises her hand to high-five him for the great victory. He stares at her hand, seemingly not understanding her gesture. Instead of slapping her hand, He steps in and kisses her on the cheek. Right after, they finally high-five to celebrate. A screen then announces the magic rift has been cleared and will now disappear. Yelling for them to leave, they run for the exit of the dark cave. Exiting the rift, the two of them run back to the real world before it closes. Behind them, the large magic rift begins to slowly close on the street. Back in the city, they are finally safe after the fight. Looking at his hands, he says he didn't find his brother but got stronger. Suddenly, he seems to feel the full exhaustion of the battle he just fought. Unable to stand any longer, he drops to his knees, completely exhausted. Worried, she asks if he's okay, pointing out that he's badly injured. With a concerned look, she carefully assesses his condition. Grabbing his arm firmly, she pulls him up, helping him to his feet. Helping him walk, she says they need to get somewhere safe. He then asks if they're going to the infirmary, as he doesn't feel that bad. The scene changes, showing a large lit-up building at night. Arriving at the location, he asks what that place is, the Navy Guild. Once inside, she tells him to wait there and change his clothes if he wants. Leaving the room, she informs him that she needs to deliver her report first. Sitting on the couch, he wonders what kind of report it could be. After a while, he opens the door, saying she's taking too long. Looking inside, he realizes this place isn't the association's infirmary. Leaving the room, he walks down the hallway and runs into a woman. Running down the hall, the woman can't stop in time to avoid the collision. Unable to dodge, he bumps right into the woman, who screams in surprise. To keep her from falling, he holds her tightly in his arms in the hallway. In a worried tone, he asks if she's okay after the collision. A bit startled, she just gives the young man a small nod. Realizing who she is, he freezes, terrified of the situation. Gently setting her back, he holds her by the shoulders to apologize. Apologizing, he runs off to escape the situation as quickly as possible. Remembering her, he realizes she's the master of the Navy Guild, a danger. As he flees, the woman stands still in the hallway, looking in his direction. Touching her shoulder, she seems to feel that something strange just happened. Still confused, she wonders what that weird situation was all about. Entering the room, she finds Ichika sitting down and calls her over to talk. With a smile, she says she's back and did a good job. Noticing her distress, the master asks if something happened in the rift. Furious, she says she can't believe he uses his men however he wants. Calmer now, she begins to explain what this Goto Takatora person pulled off. After hearing everything, the master is surprised that he's monopolizing a rift. Disappointed, Ichika laments having someone like him in her own guild. With a serious look, the master says she'll decide how to deal with him. But changing the subject, she remembers that the most important thing now is something else. She then recalls the boy she met earlier in the hallway. The next day, he thinks about the danger he was in when he met the Navy Guild's master. Suddenly, his eyes widen at the scene unfolding right in front of him. Down below, a large fire monster is attacking the Slayers on sight. In the middle of the attack, he notices a child right in the path of danger. Worried about the situation, he grinds his teeth, tensing up at the scene. Seeing the monster attack, he charges forward, running to save the child in distress. The protective barrier shatters from the force of the massive fire attack. Furious, the Slayer screams that it's useless as he can't stop the monster. Suddenly, a dark strike hits the creature, coming from above with incredible speed. Looking to the side, the boy is stunned by what just happened. Landing on the ground, he creates a huge impact that kicks up a lot of dust. Then, a powerful dark energy begins to radiate from his body, completely surrounding him. Lying on the ground, the Slayer wonders what that is, and if he's a Slayer too. A dark smoke then begins to materialize in the middle of the street. With red eyes, he extends his hand and controls the vast, dark energy. Shocked, the Slayer can barely believe what he's seeing right in front of him. He then wonders what kind of skill that is, as he's never heard of it before. Stomping heavily, the fire creature charges forward to attack the newcomer. Standing before him, the two-headed monster stares him down with its red eyes. With his weapon in hand, he prepares to protect the fallen people. The monster's eye then glows, signaling it's about to attack with full force. With its two heads, the monster launches a massive fire blast straight at him. With his head down, he braces for the impact of the imminent blow. Using his weapon, he manages to block the monster's powerful fire attack. With a determined gaze, he faces the large two-headed creature. After being hit, the fire monster begins to slowly dissipate. The creature's body dissolves into smoke, gradually vanishing from the scene. Only black smoke remains on the ground where the great monster once stood. From a distance, a man watched the entire fight from the top of a building. With a smirk on his face, he rests his chin on his hand, observing everything. Saying it's gotten interesting, he continues to watch the scene from above. Changing scenes, the headquarters of the Japan Slayers Association is shown. In a meeting room, a man announces that they will now begin the meeting. Jinosuke Doju announces the start of the Council of the Five Heavens to everyone. Beside him was Red Kuji, the gold-ranked slayer from the Flaming Lion Guild. Also present was Rei Isaki, the gold-ranked slayer from the Navy Guild. Also at the meeting was Takuto Nagihara, the gold-ranked slayer from the Jade Sky Guild. Yawning, Shion Inamori of the Kaizen Guild seemed quite bored with the situation. Bringing up the topic, the leader says that abnormal fissures are appearing more and more frequently. Reporting a case, Red Kuji says that a bronze-ranked fissure released many beasts. Rei Isaki adds that bosses stronger than their rank are also emerging. With a smile, one of the slayers says that this is just good training. Finding it dismissive, Takuto says that's a careless way to see the situation. A tense atmosphere then begins to form between the two slayers. Boasting, Red says his guild has handled more cases than Takuto's. Annoyed by the comment, the red-haired slayer clicks his tongue in disapproval. Calling for attention, Jinosuke asks if he is just going to ignore him in the meeting. Rei then asks what could be the cause of these frequent incidents. He theorizes that something is changing, and this could be the key to the truth. Asking them to report everything, he moves on to the next item on the meeting's agenda. The new topic surprises everyone, as it was about the famous and feared Irregular. Confirming the subject, he says the Irregular has been moving between the fissures. At this, Rei reports that someone like that appeared in her guild and then vanished. Hearing about the strange ability, Takuto becomes thoughtful about the mysterious young man. Formulating a theory, she suggests that perhaps he doesn't belong to any guild. With a smile, Takuto asserts that the young man can only be one of the Mage. The statement leaves the leader and the guild master completely shocked and surprised. With a snort, Red Kuji reacts with disdain to the theory he just heard. Yelling at Takuto, he tells him not to talk nonsense about that specific boy. Surprised by the revelation, Rei asks if he has also met him, and he confirms it. Remembering the fight, he says there's no way he could be with the Mage. Seeing everyone's reaction, Takuto starts laughing at the situation. Winking with a smile, he says he was just kidding with them. The joke makes Red Kuji even more irritated with his guildmate. Maintaining his calm smile, Takuto seems to be enjoying the tension in the room. Resuming the meeting, Jinosuke explains that the capture order is still optional. With a smile, Shion says that in that case, there's no reason to worry. Suggesting they don't need to get obsessed, she seems unconcerned about the matter. Her words leave the other slayers at the meeting completely speechless for a moment. Standing up, she says she has to go and leaves the meeting room. Her golden eyes then gleam, revealing a serious and very determined look. On the ceiling, a security camera watches her every move. As she leaves, the camera continues to follow her every step down the hallway. Staring at the screen, the leader warns them not to ignore any changes and to be ready. In another room, a man says that the battles will get tougher from now on. Thinking about the Irregular, Takutora calls him a problem that can't be ignored. With a smile, he says that if he can capture him, his influence will grow. He then thinks that this would be like killing two birds with one stone. Remembering the information, he knows the Irregular uses skills no one has ever seen before. In his memories, he recalls a dark hallway with a figure in the distance. Based on what he knows, he theorizes that the Irregular has a light-based ability. With a smile, he says that in that case, he knows where he'll show up. Getting up, he prepares to put his plan into action as soon as possible. Knocking on the door, he says he needs to deal with this dangerous element right away. Meanwhile, a magical fissure appears in the middle of the street, startling everyone. Suddenly, he stops and looks toward the fissure, sensing a presence. Without thinking, he runs at full speed toward the new fissure that appeared. Arriving at the scene, he finds Takutora waiting for him with a smile. Angrily, he glares at the man waiting for him right in the middle of the street. Mockingly, Takutora says it's been a long time since he's shown himself. With a smile, Takutora tells him he's not free, and that he's taking him in. He yells angrily, demanding to know his intentions and telling him to stay out of his way. Takutora then reveals that the magical beast from that day was his older brother. The revelation leaves him shocked and speechless, with a surprised expression. With a smile, Takutora says he'll get rid of him as a favor. Screaming at him not to mess with him, the young man is filled with rage and frustration. With his hand outstretched, he prepares to use one of his attacks. Using his power, he fires a dark attack toward Takutora. Recognizing the attack, Takutora says he's never seen a slayer use anything like it. With his own magic, he deflects the attack coming at him. Seeing his attack get erased, he gets angry and can't believe his eyes. Charging with his weapon, he lunges at Takutora with an attack. With a mocking look, Takutora says his weapon is slow and useless. Then he launches a great water attack that rushes straight at him. As he's hit, he screams in pain, taking the full impact of the blow. The water attack hits him with full force, causing a huge explosion on the scene. The impact sends him flying, and he takes heavy damage from the blow. Lying on the ground, he screams in pain, too weak to get up. Weakened, he thinks the attack was too fast and heavy for him. Mockingly, Takutora asks if that's all he's got. Staring at his opponent, he wonders if this is the power of a golden slayer. air. Seeing him still moving, Takatora is surprised he can still resist. Filled with rage, he gets up, ready to keep fighting with everything he has. His eyes glow with intensity, showing he won't give up the fight. Then he releases a thick, dark smoke that spreads across the entire street. Takatora wonders if it's a smokescreen for him to escape. Suddenly, an attack shoots out of the smoke and heads toward Takatora. With a smile, he says, so that's what he was planning. Creating a weapon, he says he can read an attack like that. With a single blow, he deflects the attack coming his way. Thrown out of the smoke, he screams as the counterattack hits him. With a swift attack, Takatora hits him and throws him against a building. Screaming that it's over, Takatora responds by revealing his plans. Angrily, he says he won't let that happen, no matter what. On the ground, he hears Takatora say that he lives in a different world. With a smile, Takatora says he'll be a sacrifice for his ice blade. Hearing the taunt, he's surprised and seems to remember something. Shouting, he says the orb was his and that everything is Takatora's fault. With his eyes glowing with rage, he screams with all his might. Charging with his weapon, he unleashes a powerful attack toward Takatora. Noticing the intensity, Takatora says that even awakened, this is all he's got. With a swift blow, he strikes the young man to the ground with a precise attack. With a smile, Takatora asks if he doesn't want to come quietly now. Then he launches an attack that freezes the entire area around them. Trapped in the ice, he realizes he can't move and that this is bad. From a distance, Takatora launches several ice attacks at him while he's trapped. With a huge explosion of energy, the attack hits the spot with full force. After the attack, he lies on the ground, completely defeated and badly injured. Seeing him on the ground, Takatora calls him pathetic for passing out from the hit. With his weapon in hand, he says it's time to end this once and for all. Suddenly, he wonders what that was, as his attack was blocked. At that moment, two women appear on the scene, facing him head-on. With serious expressions, the two of them prepare for the confrontation that is about to begin. Arriving, he says they seem to be causing a huge mess. Questioning what he's doing, she mentions hunters fighting downtown. She then says she's been watching him, noting that he does whatever he wants around here, but he justifies himself, telling her the boy is an irregular. Seeing the boy on the ground, she asks if that's a reason to attack him. Getting closer to the boy, she tells him it's okay and that she'll help him. She then remembers the face of the girl who was helping the boy. Using her ability, she starts healing his wounds right there. During the healing, he keeps his eyes closed, receiving the treatment. After a moment, he finally opens his eyes, looking recovered. Looking at her, he asks why Ichiyumi is there, and she tells him not to move. With a serious look, she firmly states that she won't. A memory flashes through his mind. He recalls the request to forgive the villain. Gritting his teeth, he yells that he'll never forgive that guy. Seeing his reaction, she asks what that was all about. Wide-eyed, he freezes as she holds him. Watching the scene, the man warns that if she helps him, she'll be going against the association. She retorts that there's no capture order for the boy. With a smirk, he says that in that case, he'll just take matters into his own hands. Firmly, she states that she won't let him interfere and will handle this personally. Getting closer, he questions her attitude and boasts about his position. He then proposes they expand the Navy Guild together with his corporation's support. Turning her face away, she tells him to keep his distance and not come any closer. Laughing at the situation, he says he can't wait to see the look on her face. At that, she sharply pulls away from his touch, showing her displeasure. She then orders Ichiyumi to take him to the infirmary, saying she'll be there soon. Waking up in a dark place, he wonders where he could be. Now in the guild's infirmary, he sits up in bed feeling a lot of pain. Suddenly he hears someone ask if he's planning to run away again. Looking at him, Ichiyumi warns that there are many questions to be answered. Noticing Rei is taking a while, she gets a little worried by the bedside. Saying she has a bad feeling, she asks him to stay put and not run off. Not understanding anything, he just watches the girl with a confused expression. Running down the hall, she wonders if Rei really isn't around. With a sharp look, she suddenly seems to notice something and stops. Finding a lost Rei, Ichiyumi hears her ask where the infirmary is. As she's being led, Rei says she followed the signs but still got lost. Asking how she got lost, Ichiyumi says she can't do anything without her help. Realizing she went a bit too far, she just stays silent as they walk. Entering the room, she apologizes to the boy for taking so long to arrive. Then she asks why he ran from the guild and fought Goto Takatora. Not knowing what to say, he just remains silent at her question. At this, Rei explains that he drew attention for operating without any registration. She then says that registration would offer protection, asking why he doesn't do it. Averting his gaze, he continues to give no answer to the question. Anyway, she informs him he'll be placed under surveillance but assures him it's nothing to worry about. Then, she asks if he's willing to talk to them now. Not knowing what to say, he just stands there, thinking about how to answer. Thinking of his brother, he refuses to say anything that would put him in danger. Seeing his refusal, she simply replies that she understands the whole situation. Changing the subject, she claps her hands and tells everyone to leave. Not understanding the sudden change, he just stares at her in surprise. At this, Ichiyumi celebrates, saying they can go to that place then. Meanwhile, Rei wonders if Ichiyumi will be okay, but the girl doesn't seem to care. The scene changes, and they appear on a bustling street full of lights. Seated at the restaurant, a serving of meat is brought to their table. Then, she comments that Arata hasn't been doing anything but fighting lately. Saying he needs a break, she adds that you can't fight on an empty stomach. Watching the meat grill, he reflects on the idea of taking a break. He then decides to rest for a bit before looking for his brother. Saying the guild is paying, she tells him to eat as much as he wants. He wonders if he can accept, since they've only helped him. With his eyes fixed on the meat, he seems to be fighting his own hunger, but he can't resist and says he can't hold back any longer. Thanking them profusely, he starts to eat everything eagerly. The two girls just watch him, smiling as he eats. While eating, he says it's incredible and that he's never tasted meat like this. They also enjoy the meal, saying everything is delicious. Suddenly, he gets serious, seeming to reflect on his journey so far. He then wonders if he'd even be at the guild if he hadn't taken the orb. She then says she just wanted to relax and offers to answer any questions he has. Seizing the moment, Ichiyumi says this is a great opportunity. She even says that not even guild members get to talk to Rei in person, so he asks how the guilds locate magical fissures. He thinks to himself that he needs to find his brother before Takatora does. She explains they use fissure prediction, which is like forecasting an earthquake. By analyzing various factors, they estimate where the fissure will open. At this, Ichiyumi finds it strange how casually Rei acts around Arata. Suddenly, an alert on her phone makes her look closely. The warning says a silver-class fissure will appear in less than an hour. Seeing the notification, he says that their mealtime is over. She then warns that, based on current trends, even stronger monsters might appear. Hearing this, Ichiyumi volunteers, saying she can go to the location alone. Getting up from the table, he asks them to let him go with them too. Agreeing to the mission, she lets him go but warns him to be careful. Confident he'll succeed, he thinks his current level is enough. With a determined look, he reinforces that he has to do this no matter what. At the location, she warns that according to the prediction, the fissure will soon appear. Suddenly, he notices a strange movement in the air around him. At that moment, a large rift begins to form right in front of them. Exactly as predicted, the fissure opens, confirming the mission's difficulty. Worried, he asks if she's okay, and she assures him she can handle it. Without wasting time, the two of them run together towards the fissure. Then, a message appears, announcing the start of the Dasa fissure capture. Entering the fissure, they arrive in a place that looks like ancient ruins. Looking around, he wonders what kind of place these fissures are. She then explains that they're said to be another world, but no one is certain. She adds that some disappear after defeating the boss, but others don't. In any case, she notes that it's quiet, and she doesn't sense any enemies. She signals for silence, warning that something is approaching. Just then, the ground begins to shake violently, catching them both by surprise. Leaping back, they dodge a monster that emerges from the sand. Facing the creature, he prepares for the fight that's about to begin. The monster attacks, striking the ground and throwing them both back with the impact. Seeing the creature retreat, she says it has hidden in the sand again. Trying to listen carefully, she concentrates to feel their movement. Then, she warns that it's not just one, but several of them approaching. He tells her to leave it to him, offering to handle the situation. Crouching down, he places his hand on the sand to feel the area. He then says the soot on the ground will feel all the vibrations. Spreading his soot, he can feel the enemies approach. With his hand on the ground, he detects a very specific movement in the sand. Just then, he finds the exact spot and yells that he's found it right there. Immediately after, the monster emerges from the sand exactly where he pointed. Using his blade, he lands a blow, saying he can fight now that he knows their position. Impressed, she questions his technique, and he says he just visualized everything beforehand. Remembering his time in the infirmary, he explains he thought of spreading the soot to connect with his surroundings. He explains that the soot isn't just for fighting, it has other uses. Noting he wasn't sleeping, she's impressed, and he says they can handle this. Diving into the soot, he moves to strike all the enemies at once. Sliding across the ground, he continues the attack with a rapid sequence of strikes. Stopping amidst the fallen enemies, he announces that only the boss is left. Walking forward forward, she warns him not to let his guard down, and he agrees. Seeing the structure, they look up, and he questions what that place is. Before the ruins, she wonders what could have been kept in that place. She then says she has a bad feeling, telling him to stay alert. Suddenly, something huge flies towards them at great speed. With a quick reaction, he turns his face toward the approaching object. With a loud crash, the object lands, causing a heavy impact on the ground. Seeing the attack on the ground, he asks if that was another one of the worms. She denies it, saying it was much larger, posing a great danger. Another strike then hits the ground, landing very close to where he was standing. With a smile, he says the same kind of attack won't work. Using his blade, he charges forward and lands a direct hit against the attack. He then explains that it's useless to hide, as the soot has already been sent out. Praising his tactics, she says he's gotten much stronger than before. Reflecting, he realizes he's grown stronger and now has Ichiyumi by his side. Thinking about his strength, he says he can fight against higher-ranked enemies. But suddenly, his eyes widen as he notices something strange on the ground. Standing still, they both look up, noticing the strange movement in the sand. Then, the scorpion boss emerges from the sand, revealing itself as the main enemy. Warning him to watch for the claws, she screams that she cut off the tail. She uses her ability to create a shield, defending herself from the monster's strike. She struggles to hold back the attack, gritting her teeth from the force. Seeing that she won't be able to hold on, he says he needs to help her right away. The monster then lands another blow, shattering the defense she was holding. Caught in the blast, he's thrown back by the monster's sheer force. He turns, surprised to see something suddenly appear in midair. A platform of water forms right under his feet to help him. Seeing the chance, she shouts for him to use the platform to attack. Thanking her, he steps onto the platform, preparing to jump from it. Shouting loudly, he leaps towards the monster with all his might. With a powerful strike, he hits the weak spot right in the monster's center. After landing the attack, he stands still, watching the monster recoil from the blow. Happy with the result, she celebrates, saying they finally did it. Smiling, he says yes, and that now they can finally go home. After the blow, the monster lies on the ground, seemingly defeated. Noticing something strange, she says the completion notification hasn't appeared yet. He agrees, and wonders if this is a fissure that doesn't close. With a serious expression, he continues to watch the situation unfold. Suddenly, a new figure appears and says the game is over for the monster. Sitting there, he says it was entertaining to see the poison dealt with so quickly. Surprised, they question the appearance of a magi that can speak. He says that by controlling the monster, he had a front row seat for the whole fight. She asks how he's controlling it, stunned that a creature could have such power. Showing its claws, he warns that they're still here to fight. He then calls the monster back, telling it to fight to the bitter end. He realizes the villain is controlling the monster, even though it's in pieces. He launches his attacks, trying to destroy the monster's remaining parts. Seeing the remains of the fight, he asks if it's finally over. With a smile, the villain proposes that the young man become his new vassal. Outraged, she asks just what that thing is. Saying he's bored with the place, he announces he'll be waiting inside. With a smile, he promises a grand reception if they decide to enter. Seeing the fissure, the hero says the villain uses it as a base to collect bosses. Looking at the rift, he notices it seems much darker than the others. Walking toward the rift, she warns that the real fight begins inside. With a serious expression, he just remains silent, ready for combat. Engulfed by the passage, he crosses through the portal to the new location. Arriving there, they find themselves in a huge, luxurious hall right ahead. Observing the place, the villain wonders if this kingdom connects to theirs. Suddenly, one of the monsters lunges forward, trying to land a blow on him. Reacting to the attack, he unleashes a strike that hits the enemy head-on. After taking the hit, the monster falls to the ground, seemingly defeated. Saying they appeared out of nowhere, she tells him to look around. Just then, several other monsters begin to appear all over the hall. Surrounded by the monsters, he wonders if they are all under the villain's control. Preparing to fight, she says that at their current strength, they can beat them. Using their skills, they charge forward together and unleash several blows on the enemies. Fighting non-stop, he realizes the enemies just keep coming at them. Shouting to him, she warns him not to waste time and to go straight for the villain. Running down the corridor, they are chased by even more monsters along the way. Passing through a door, they finally manage to shake off the enemies following them. Arriving in the hall, a guard says they've finally shown up for the meeting. Sitting on the throne, the villain says he was getting bored of waiting. Seeing the villain there, they recognize him as the talking magi from before. He then says that they cleared out his vassals, but he has plenty of replacements. The hero declares that if they defeat him, his vassals will vanish, and vows to make the villain disappear for good. With a smirk, the villain says he can finally play now, wanting to see them in despair. With that, the villain prepares for combat, showing his full power. She suggests not fighting him head-on. He then asks the villain why he uses monsters. Saying it's fun, he explains that he turns everyone into his mere vassals. To him, humans are meant to be ruled by the strongest. Claiming it's the right of the strong, he warns that he will make him his vassal too. Without a word, the two stand firm before the great threat. Seeing a chance, he says he has a very important question for him. Turning his head, the villain waits to hear what he has to say. He then asks if there's a way to reverse a human that's been turned into a beast. Confused by his question, she just stares at him. The villain laughs, finding it interesting that he wants to reverse a magai. He screams at the villain, demanding to know if there's a way. He then proposes a game, saying that if the boy wins, he'll tell the secret. His guards then get ready, moving forward to start the fight. Seeing the spheres, he wonders if that could be blood floating in the hall. The red spheres fly toward them, moving at high speed. Sensing the danger, he braces for the incoming attack. Using his ability, he launches a Soot strike to defend himself from the attack. Despite defending himself, he's hit and injured by the enemy's attack. She screams, warning him to watch out for the enemy in front of him. Right in front of him, one of the guards prepares to land a direct hit. The guard's eye then glows, suddenly changing color. But suddenly, the guard attacks his own ally with a surprise blow. Confused, he sees the guard is surrounded by a blue protective barrier. With a hand on his chest, he feels the pain from the blow he just took. Shouting her name, he sees her on the ground, struggling to use her magic. Getting up with his help, she says she's fine and can keep going. The villain then asks if he can finish him and end it all. While she handles the guards, he moves forward to confront the villain. Agreeing with the plan, he yells that he'll give it his all in the fight. Thinking about protecting her, he says he needs to finish the villain quickly. Meanwhile, she heals herself and says she needs to regroup with him soon. Looking at the guards, she thinks of a way to finish them all at once. Saying it's the only way, she prepares to use a very powerful strike. In a flurry of blows, she advances, striking all the guards at once. She's relieved to see her attack worked, but just as she feared, the guards seem to rise again even after her strike. She then says she can only use that move a few more times. At that, he charges alone towards the villain, running at full speed. Noticing the technique, the villain says he coagulates blood with soot. He then comments that the idea is interesting and the ability is good. With a smile on his face, he asks if the boy is on their side. Confused, he wonders what the villain means by being on his side. Saying it doesn't matter, he calls him to settle the fight there. He then asks if it will be his blood or the boy's soot that will win. Preparing for combat, the boy creates a blade with his soot. Then, the villain manipulates the blood, creating a strike for his attack. Unleashing his attack, the villain fires a blast of blood in his direction. With his soot, he prepares to counter the great villain's attack. He then fires his own strike, which clashes with the blood attack. Hit by the blow, he feels the direct impact on his arm. With a new attack, the villain asks what he thinks of that move. Taunting the boy, he tells him to try and do something with that soot. Barely dodging, he escapes the attack that explodes right behind him. With a smirk, the villain watches the boy's reaction as he approaches. Using his soot blade, he manages to parry the villain's blood strike. Seeing his reaction, the villain says that's interesting and taunts him. Gritting his teeth, he realizes that at this rate, he'll just wear himself out in the fight. Finding the fight boring, the villain asks if this is the only way he knows how to fight. Deciding to change targets, he warns that he might attack the girl first. Moving quickly, he tries to intercept the attack heading for her. Desperate, he screams Ichiyumi's name as he sees the attack getting closer. Jumping in front, he ends up being hit head-on by the villain's attack. From the impact of the blow, he spits blood and is left severely injured. With no strength left to continue, he collapses, completely defeated on the hall floor. Approaching the body, the villain just observes the situation for a moment. Standing in front of him, he says the boy shouldn't have looked away. With a smile, he says the boy will be happy as his new vassal. To finish it, the villain unleashes another strike to transform him for good. Using her ability, she creates a shield and manages to block the villain's blow. Extending her hand, she concentrates on maintaining the defense against the attack. Annoyed, he tells her not to interrupt him, as he was at the best part. Gritting her teeth, she says she can't believe he did that to Arata. Starting to heal his wound, she uses her ability on the boy's chest. Telling him to try harder, she says he should already be waking up. Seeing the scene, the villain warns that it is useless to try to heal that wound. Laughing at the situation, he mocks her, saying the boy died to protect her. Filled with anger, she shouts, ordering the villain to stop talking immediately. He then yells that his death was because of her, calling it pathetic. Remembering the past, a frightened girl hears someone say that everything is fine. At that moment, she finds herself cornered by two monsters in an alley. Then a boy appears, telling his sister to run and that he will handle it. With nothing she can do, she can only watch the boy being caught by the monster. Fallen on the ground, She reaches out her hand and desperately screams the name Mina. The monster then tightly squeezes the boy's face in its hand. With wide eyes, the boy becomes completely terrified of the monster. After that, the creature opens its mouth, preparing to attack the boy. Crying in fear, the boy screams, unable to escape that situation. Shouting the name Minato, she watches the horrible scene unfold before her. The monster then attacks the boy, spreading blood all over the alley. Crying at the scene, she relives all the trauma of that terrible day. Trying to calm herself, she says he is only provoking her to make her lose control. Kneeling, she stands up and says she needs to do this no matter what. Saying she is not the same as before, she charges at the great villain. She then thinks that if he uses the blood ability, she can counter it. Bored, he says he can turn her into his subordinate just for fun. Observing his attack, she prepares to use her own ability. She then uses her water attack to defend against the blood strike. Laughing at her, he mocks her ability, saying she is weak. His attack then pierces through her defense with ease. Even after the hit, she reaches out her hand and remains firm in her position. The villain is surprised by a new water attack that suddenly appears. With her ability, she says her water exists to stop blood. She then says her water can mix and is excellent for support. With a smile, she states that she trained a lot as a hunter for this moment. The villain then realizes that his technique is being affected by her water. Finding it interesting, he sees the water mixing with his blood in the attack, but he says it does not matter, and that he can simply bleed more. Worried, she realizes that at this rate she will be overwhelmed by his blood. Suddenly, the boy's eye opens, showing that he is still alive. Seeing him get up, she shouts the name Arata, surprised by the scene. Throwing her magic to him, she asks if he can fight and use it. She then shouts for him to mix the water and the soot to manipulate it. At that moment, he combines both abilities in his hands to create a new attack. Shouting that it is useless, the villain charges at them with his attack. With a determined look, he prepares to strike back with his new power. Advancing against the villain, he attacks with the mixture of water and soot. His strike then hits the villain's blood, mixing with the attack. Being hit, the villain screams and does not understand what happened to his attack. She then shouts that the water amplifies the power, telling Arata to attack. Advancing together, the two prepare the final blow to finish the villain. He then lands a direct hit, piercing the chest of the great villain. With the impact, the villain spits blood and is severely injured by the strike. Fallen on the ground, he says that it was an interesting fight with a human. With his eyes glowing, he seems to prepare for a new transformation. Now recovered, the two prepare for what may come next in the fight. Getting up, the villain refuses to accept that he can end like the others. In a memory, a voice asks where Valgad thinks he is going. He then replies that he has no loyalty and that he will have some fun. The voice then says that what he denied will be his enemy in the end. He then remembers those words, wondering if that was a prophecy. With a smile, he says everything was interesting and prepares himself again. Fallen on the ground, the villain stands before the boy who defeated him in battle. He then asks the villain to teach him how to revert magical beasts. Laughing at him, the villain remembers the promise if the boy won. Shouting at the villain, he demands to know how to turn his brother back. Thinking about the question, the villain remains silent for a moment. With a smile, he says that it is completely impossible to do. He then explains that a human can never return after becoming a beast. Laughing at him, the villain disappears right in front of the boy. Vanishing at his feet, the villain's particles completely disappear into the air. At that moment, a notification says that he leveled up after the great fight. Seeing his condition, Ichiyumi approaches and calls him by name. Worried, she asks if Arata is okay, but he does not respond. She then takes a rare item, saying it can grant a new ability. Telling him to use it, she hands over the item that shines in the boy's hand. Seeing the ability, he realizes it is the same as the villain's and does not want to use it. The description then says that the ability allows the user to revive and control a vassal. With the mission complete, a message announces that the fissure has been cleared and is now dispersing. At that, the portal slowly begins to close, vanishing in the middle of the city. Back on the street, the two of them stand still, observing the scene after the battle. With a lost look in his eyes, he stands in silence, processing everything that just happened. Recalling the villain's words, he remembers that a human never returns to normal. Seeing him upset, she says that together they can find a way to help his brother. Even if he can't turn back, he says he still wants to save his dear brother. Now on another street, they remain still, unsure of what to do next. Worried about him, she just watches, slightly adjusting her tie. Changing scenes at the Marine Guild, someone comments on what happened. At the meeting, she thinks that Arata's power might share the same origin as the beasts. She then suggests that perhaps they should capture him to keep an eye on him. Slamming her fist on the table, Ichiyumi yells at her, telling her to wait. She then says that Arata would never hurt anyone, remembering his earlier desperation. Clenching her fist, She affirms she knows this because she fought by his side. Yelling, she guarantees that if he ever steps out of line, she'll be the one to stop him. Hearing her words, the other girl falls silent for a moment. After hearing everything, she agrees and says she'll do as requested. She then says the boy can go home and that she'll take care of the association. With a smile, the girl celebrates the decision made in the room. Back at his building, he walks up the stairs and opens the door to his apartment. Stepping inside, he complains about the mess, saying it doesn't even look like anyone lives there. Back in the apartment, he feels the suffocating silence of the house. Just then, he notices some dark bloodstains on the floor. Looking at the bedroom, he feels the space is bigger now that his brother isn't coming back. He then thinks that if Magai is right, his brother will never return. But even so, he clenches his fists, looking determined not to give up. Staring into the room, he continues to think about his brother's situation. Suddenly, he notices a strange light and wonders why it's there. The light then shines brightly, revealing a fissure inside his home. He wonders if the portal appeared right in his brother's room. Walking towards the fissure, he asks himself if his brother could be inside. Reaching out, he touches the fissure and prepares to enter. At that, the fissure shatters into several pieces and begins to disappear. A message then announces that the capture of the fissure named Cold is about to begin. Being pulled inside, he is taken to a completely new place. Looking around, he wonders what this place is, yet it feels familiar. Deciding to go in, he starts walking through the dark and mysterious cave. Walking down the corridor, he presses forward to explore the new environment. He then realizes that nothing is appearing, wondering what's going on. Looking to the side, he notices the wall looks like it's been broken. He realizes that someone must have thrashed around in pain and anger in this place. Stopping, he stands in silence, observing what lies ahead. At the end of the corridor, he finds a huge blocked wooden door. He wonders if the boss is in there, and if the door can't be opened. Using his blade, he prepares to destroy the door with a powerful strike. With an explosion, the door is completely destroyed, opening up for the young man. Peering inside, he stands still, observing what's in the new hall. With a serious expression, he stares at what is right in front of him. In the hall, he sees his brother, transformed into a monster, and calls out to him. The great beast then turns to him, growling with immense rage. Desperate, he starts to scream, unable to believe what he's seeing. Crying, he says that he's finally found him after searching for so long. Remembering the past, he recalls several moments with his brother. Calling out to his brother, he tells him they should go home together, right now. Screaming loudly, the monster charges at him with a violent blow. Hit head-on, he falls to the ground from the force of the attack. The monster then unleashes another powerful blow, causing a huge explosion. Lying on the ground, he tries to speak to his brother, telling him that it's Arata. His eyes wide with shock, he realizes his brother no longer recognizes him. Screaming in pain, the monster unleashes a great power throughout the room. Dodging the attack, he tries to speak again, saying that he's his brother. He then yells that everything is okay and that he's going to save him this time. The monster then lands a blow, throwing him far and injuring him badly. Lying on the ground, he wonders if his brother has completely turned into a beast. With an injured eye, he remembers the vassal skill he acquired. The description says it can revive and control, but memories are lost. He then thinks that to use the skill, he needs to make his brother a vassal. Facing his brother, he stands still, thinking about what he should do. Charging at him, the monster attacks with all its might. Taking the hit, he's thrown to the ground by the force of the attack. As he's stomped on, he screams in pain from his brother's blows. Even while being beaten, he says it's nothing compared to his brother's suffering. The monster then prepares to deliver the final blow and end the fight. With tears in his eyes, he sees the monster's reflection approaching him. Suddenly, a large blue crystal appears and strikes the monster head-on. Lying on the ground, the monster wonders what that was and who his brother is. Mocking him, a man says he's pathetic for playing hunter. Announcing his arrival, he declares that the hero everyone was waiting for has arrived. Furious, the young man grinds his teeth when he sees the newcomer. Shouting Takatora's name, he prepares for what's next. Yelling at him, he warns him not to dare touch his dear brother. Unfazed, Takatora just watches him with a mocking expression on his face. Looking at the monster, he realizes what's happening in the hall. The monster screams at him, asking why he's there in front of it. Takatora then explains that as an irregular, they have to keep an eye on him. To prove it, he reveals an agent has been following him everywhere. Suddenly, the monster charges forward to attack the young man with all its might, but the young man prepares himself, creating a soot blade for combat. Declaring him guilty, Takatora prepares to attack in the name of justice. With a leap, he lunges forward ready for a confrontation with the young man. The two then exchange blows, clashing with great force in the hall. Mocking him, he asks if the young man can really protect the monster. Yelling back, he says his brother is not a monster like him. Takatora then takes the crystal that was on the monster to use in his attack. With a powerful strike, he hurls the crystal toward the large monster. Seeing the attack, The young man turns and realizes another blow is coming. With a sideways glance, he grasps what's happening in the hall. Shouting that he will defeat him, he charges forward to confront Takatora. As they trade blows, Takatora tells him not to get too confident in his strength. He then says he'll cut him to pieces along with the monster. Seeing the incoming attack, he runs to protect his brother from the blow. Standing in front of his brother, he yells that he's not a real monster. Remembering the past, he recalls his brother supporting his dreams. He then says he decided he would be the one to protect his brother no matter what. With a cry, he swears that this time, he will save his brother. In a memory, the two of them run together hand in hand, smiling happily. He then manages to block Takatora's attack with his soot blade. Annoyed, Takatora is surprised by the strength he just displayed. With his eyes glowing, he rushes at Takatora with all his might. Declaring it the end, he sends the young man flying with a powerful blow. He then asks what he means about what he and his parents share. With a smile, he asks if there weren't two other Magai in that house. Remembering his home, he wonders if his parents also left. He then reveals that his parents asked for money not to disclose the orb purchase. Hearing the villain say he took care of them, his eyes fill with pure hatred. With a smirk, Takatora adds that they gave good experience points. Screaming at the villain, he tells him to get out of his sight now. With a smile, Takatora warns that it won't be like last time. He then launches his attack, creating a huge beast of ice. Shouting loudly, the young man launches his soot attack to counter. The ice attack is struck and split in two by the young man's soot. His attack then flies past and causes an explosion at the back of the hall. The two then continue their fight, exchanging blows at high speed. He then complains, saying he missed one of the attacks by a hair. With a smile, Takatora says he's gotten better, but it's not over yet. He then unleashes another ice attack, which the young man can't keep up with. Suddenly, the monster jumps in front of the attack to protect the young man. Seeing this, he turns and shouts his brother's name, stunned by the act. The monster's eye glows, showing it still has some consciousness left. With a roar, the monster charges and lands a direct hit on Takatora. Thrown back, Takatora feels the impact and cries out from the blow. Crying out for his brother, he wonders if the monster can recognize the enemy. Facing Takatora, the monster readies itself for the coming battle. In disbelief, he wonders if it's possible for a beast to protect a human, but he says it doesn't matter, and that both of them will be judged and punished. Getting an idea, he thinks that if he can stop his movements, he can win. He then realizes he can control the state of matter with his power. With his hand on the ground, he prepares to sync with Ichiyumi's timing. Annoyed, Takatora prepares to launch an attack to destroy the soot. The soot then liquefies, spreading all over the hall floor. With a sideways glance, he notices the change in the soot's state. He then gets stuck to the floor, unable to move his feet. Yelling that it worked, the young man rushes in to deliver the final blow. Angrily, he says a skill like that won't hold him. He then jumps to break free from the soot and attack the young man. But suddenly, he's caught off guard by the monster appearing right behind him. With a final blow, the monster smashes Takatora's head into the ground. Smiling, he celebrates the victory and calls out his dear brother's name. He thinks that his brother finally managed to defeat the great villain, but suddenly, the monster starts spitting a dark liquid from its mouth. Scared, he screams for his brother, not understanding what's happening. The monster then begins to dissolve, blood spraying from its entire body. In shock, he cries out for his brother, watching the scene unfold before him. Screaming in despair, he can't accept what's happening. He then tries to use his vassal skill, but it doesn't seem to work. Just then, Takatora gets up, healing himself with his dark power. A notification then announces that the magic pouch has been cleared and will disappear. Kneeling on the ground, he stays motionless before Takatora, unable to react. Mocking him, Takatora says he warned him not to get too confident. With a look of hatred, he says he's going to finish Takatora once and for all. At that moment, he stands up, ready for the final confrontation with the villain. Facing Takatora, he unleashes a dark power and threatens him with his strength. Screaming that he'll kill him, his eyes show pure hatred and vengeance. With a cry of rage, he charges and attacks Takatora with all his fury. Noticing the change, Takatora wonders if this is a new skill. Saying it doesn't matter, he prepares to end the fight in a single blow. The two then exchange blows, clashing with a huge impact of power. Surprised, Takatora realizes his soot is much stronger than before. The soot then traps him, leaving him unable to move in the hall. With his eyes glowing, the young man advances to deliver the final blow to Takatora. He then unleashes an explosion that sends Takatora flying with immense force. The blow creates a large crater in the ground, showing the attack's power. Lying on the ground, he wonders what is happening and how he lost. Out on the street, Someone approaches Takatora's fallen body. With a hateful glare, the young man says it doesn't matter how many times he kills him. Thrown backward, he's hit square by an unexpected blow. Standing, the hunter just stares down his opponent with a terrifying presence. Even while trembling, he says he no longer cares what happens. Screaming that he'll kill him, he unleashes his most powerful ice attack. Staring intently, the hunter seems unfazed by the incoming attack, but the strike is completely blocked before it can even get close. Then, the attacker screams in pain as he's hit by a counterattack. Completely defeated, he's now on the ground, barely able to move. Approaching the man on the ground, the hunter stops right in front of him. He then asks with a smile if the fight is already over. Realizing the danger, the man says he needs to escape this place as fast as possible, but with no chance of escape, the hunter prepares another blow to end the fight. Unleashing his power, a huge explosion of energy erupts in the middle of the street. When the smoke clears, all that remains is a giant crater in the asphalt. Lying at the bottom of the crater, he just groans, unable to keep fighting. Staring at the hunter, the man is shocked by his overwhelming presence. Screaming for him to die, the hunter decides to move in for the final blow. Seeing his companion was about to be killed, he fires an attack to finish the fight. But suddenly a girl appears, creating a shield to protect the fallen man. With great difficulty, she tries to hold back the relentless attack. The attack's force begins to grow, pushing her defense back more and more. Realizing the situation, she tells herself that this is very bad. Unable to withstand the pressure, the shield shatters and she's hit head-on. Thrown backward, she falls to the ground, wondering what was happening. Even wounded, she stays on the ground, watching the hunter slowly approach. Getting to her feet, she tells Arata that she won't let him kill that man. She then screams desperately, begging Arata to return to normal. Feeling a sharp pain, he clutches his head and starts to scream. She warns that if the damage gets worse, the association will definitely intervene. Turning her face away, she then falls silent, just watching what would happen. Lying on the ground, the man says with a smile that she's done for too. Knowing she had to act, she prepares to protect her fallen companion. Clutching his head, he starts to groan, feeling an intense pain. Then, unleashing his power, he lets out a scream that echoes throughout the city. Cutting to a control room, a woman observes the destruction on several monitors. She tells herself that this was the worst-case scenario she could have imagined. Rushing out of the place, she seems determined to handle the problem herself. Meanwhile, at the Jade Sky Guild, someone says the situation has become a problem. Talking on the phone, a man says the association's negligence was clear, but finding it all interesting, he suggests they go out and have a little fun. Back on the street, an explosion goes off right next to the two hunters. Totally out of control, he fires a powerful blast at the girl. Advancing at high speed, the blast destroys everything in its path. Heading straight for her, the attack seems impossible to dodge. With nowhere to run, she just stares as the attack gets closer and closer. Suddenly, another attack appears and blocks it at the last second. Relieved, she smiles, realizing she was saved just in time. Her savior then appears, apologizing for the delay and asking if she's okay. Apologizing for what happened, she helps the injured girl to her feet. She then tells the girl to leave the rest to her, admitting her own error in judgment. Facing the opponent, she prepares for the battle ahead. Observing his state, she says he seems completely out of control. Recalling scenes from the past, she remembers moments they had together before. With a determined look, she prepares to fight with everything she has. Charging forward, she fires her own attack at the out-of-control opponent. But a man appears, saying the irregular has finally shown his true nature. She replies that they will take responsibility and bring him back. He says the association has a different opinion, extending his hand toward her. She furiously asks what the association said, telling him not to do it. He replies that they all seem very concerned about the irregular. Shouting, she asserts that this is the Jade Sky Guild's responsibility. With a serious gaze, she stands firm in her decision to protect him. Seeing the attack coming, she yells for him to watch his back. But with a smile, the man doesn't seem to care about the incoming strike. Then, the attack is suddenly blocked before it can hit him. Surprised, she says he vanished and that petals are falling everywhere. He then suddenly reappears right behind the out-of-control hunter. Using his technique, he strikes the young man, who screams in pain from the impact. Shocked, she realizes he managed to restrain Arata in just a moment. She asks if he plans to kill him, warning that she won't let that happen. He says she seems quite attached, and that the blow only calmed him down. He says it would be a waste to kill him, asking her to leave everything to him. On the ground, the young man groans, finally seeming a bit more subdued. Screaming uncontrollably, the young man releases a huge amount of power against the man. He comments with a smile that, just as he thought, this was a high-level Magai power. Then, the hunter charges forward and unleashes a series of strikes at his target. His power clashes violently against the man's defense, who remains motionless. He explains that the young man's control is immature, letting his power run wild. Breathing heavily, it seems he used all his strength in that last attack. He then announces it's time to take him to the association before everything is destroyed. Startled, she asks what his plans are for taking the young man to the association. He simply replies that it's a decision for the association alone to make. Not understanding, she falls silent, trying to process what she just heard. Preparing a technique, he begins to concentrate energy in his hand. Suddenly, the young man's body is lifted into the air by an invisible force. She screams desperately, asking what he's trying to do to the hunter. The young man's body is completely enveloped by a large amount of energy. He tells her not to worry, as he only put him to sleep for a bit. Saying goodbye with a smile, he says they'll see each other around. Staring at the empty spot, she's shocked to see he's vanished. Letting her arm fall, she seems frustrated for not being able to stop him from leaving. Standing in the middle of the street, she thinks about how impossible it is to read his mind. The other girl appears, calling her name, still a bit worried. Seeing that she's okay, the girl mentions that the residents have been evacuated. She says they barely managed to avoid the worst possible scenario. The other girl then asks Ray what happened to Arata. Falling silent, she just makes an expression like she doesn't want to answer. The scene changes. He slowly opens his eyes, looking very disoriented. Strapped to a gurney, he starts to wonder what this place is. He tries to understand what happened, remembering he was fighting Takatora. Feeling a sharp pain, he complains that his head hurts when he tries to remember. Walking toward him, a mysterious man enters the dark room. Holding a whip, he stops right in front of the restrained young man. With a sinister smile, he asks if they can finally begin. Amidst the rubble, the site of the former battle is completely destroyed. A hand emerges from the wreckage, showing that someone survived the attack. Struggling to his feet, he realizes his opponent has already left. Furious, he punches the ground, cursing himself for being defeated. Swearing he won't accept this, he vows to become much stronger. Meanwhile, the man with the whip smiles, wishing for him to suffer in hell. Back in the cell, the young man just says he doesn't care about anything anymore. She then says that if this continues, they'll just keep interrogating him. Just then, she's startled by an urgent notification on her phone. The screen shows they've lost the signal of 3 hunters and a magical fisher. Furthermore, the alert says that Ichiyumi went alone to rescue them. Worried, she thinks her friend pushes herself too hard, even when she needs rest. She then realizes that Ichiyumi is in great danger and needs help urgently. Cutting to the association's headquarters, everything seems calm for a moment, until in a room, a man tests his microphone, asking if they can hear him. Apologizing for interrupting everyone, a general announcement begins to broadcast. As the association's president, he then issues an emergency directive for everyone. Getting straight to the point, the man prepares to deliver the big news. The announcement then reveals they have finally captured the highly sought-after Irregular. Shouting indignantly, a hunter says he can't be arrested without proof. She also asks where he is now, begging them to let her see him. He explains that the charges are for fighting out of control and destroying the city. On top of that, it was a serious violation of the association's rules. The hunter on the phone is shocked to realize who they're talking about. It's also stated that his unknown power was observed at a gold rank level. Hearing the announcement, he shouts that the idea of eliminating him is going too far. She then says that as the one responsible for him, she'll take all the blame. But the president warns they will determine his nature and interrogate him about the Magai. On the phone, a woman asks if the interrogation will be handled by the feared sanctioner. He finishes by saying that everyone must be on high alert. Ending the broadcast, the guard turns and starts to leave the hallway. Worried, she tells herself that at this rate, his future is uncertain. Running down the hall, she tries to get to the prison as fast as she can. Cutting to the underground prison, a scream of pain echoes through the cells. The Inquisitor then says the young man's pain tolerance is merely average. Demanding answers, he warns that he won't stop until he knows about the magical beasts. With a bruised face, the young man just replies that he knows absolutely nothing. Staring at the prisoner, the man prepares to continue the interrogation. But just as he was about to strike again, someone yells for him to stop immediately. Arriving at the cell, she appears suddenly, interrupting the torture session. Introducing herself as Ray, she orders the interrogation to stop at once. He then asks mockingly if she happens to have permission to be there. With a serious look, she simply replies that yes, she did. With a slight smile, the Inquisitor seems unfazed by her arrival. She says she wants to talk to him, telling the two of them to leave the room. Telling her to be careful, he says goodbye and leaves the cell. Approaching the young man, she comments that he seems much calmer now. He just keeps his head down, showing no visible reaction. She then asks if he remembers losing control during the fight. Recounting what happened, she reveals that Ichiyumi got hurt trying to stop him. She explains that the girl was caught in the crossfire and is now receiving treatment. Saying there's nothing left, he says he deserves to be punished for everything. In a quick flashback, he remembers his brother's death and his own powerlessness.